Over my years as a realtor in Waterloo region, I've had the pleasure of meeting plenty of successful person. Here are some of their stories. Welcome to People Around Town. I am very enthused to meet with Bryce Fleming, mortgage agent with Mortgage Intelligence. And he's one of those guys that, well, he had a hat like me. And so guys with these sort of hats, and they've been rocking these for a bit, there's something to them, because to me, a hat like this signifies service. You know, if he's rolling around with a fedora, that means he's trying to own everything in town, which is a little bit flamboyant, but doesn't seem to be your stick.
Not so much. But
success is something that seems to follow you, or you exude it. Very nice to meet you. Welcome to People Around Town.
Thanks for having me join you.
Man, I'm excited. So I know of Bryce. I've had some clients work with Bryce, and this was a perfect chance for me to reach out to him to say, hey, do you want to jump on this podcast? Can I get into that head of yours a little bit? Yeah. By the way, we have the same sort of hair growth strategy. It's just, you know what? We can't hide our thoughts. They're going to just, slide out regardless. So I guess mortgages. Why mortgages? Did you know you want to be a mortgage agent, or what was something that sort of led you to getting into this industry?
That's a good question. Growing up, I would say I was the kid. I don't know if you remember going into like restaurants and in the vestibule kind of front area. There's always those little magazine racks with the realtor.
Oh yeah.
Little booklets. And so I was the kid, 5, 7, 8, 10, 15 years old, whatever. I'd always grab those, just be looking through. I loved real estate.
Okay.
I never felt like I wanted to go the realtor route. Plenty of friends and, contacts that are in that industry. And so just kind of, it was always an interest. I felt like I also understood the industry a little bit. My wife and I, we were blessed to be able to invest into some rental properties.
Oh,
kind of early on. And I just felt like, okay, real estate makes sense. The brick and mortar, I'm not a huge stock market guy. I'm like, okay, that's starting to get out of my comfort zone. And so as that progressed, and then at one point I had started a little bit of a side hustle doing some budget coaching. I have a company called The Budget Coach.
Oh, excellent.
And I help people with their personal finances. And that was just because I got a bit of a name or reputation that, talk to Bryce. He's the budget guy. He's the whatever. And then it was like I felt like I needed to stretch myself and start my own business, or even more so, I had friends that were like, just do it. Get over yourself and start the business.
Okay.
So I did. And then a few years after that, I was finishing up at my last job, or I felt like transition was coming. I'd spend hours just scrolling through Indeed.
Yes.
Nothing was ticking the boxes. It was like, okay, what's next? I didn't know. And then essentially the team that I'm part of now, one of the two brothers called the Mortgage Brothers, and they posted on their social media. I was friends with one of them, and I was sitting on the couch one like Friday night, and I said to my wife, oh my gosh, it was like the light bulb went off. Bing.
Yes.
Everything they were looking for just ticked the boxes. And I don't know why I never thought of it.
You just didn't?
I hadn't. But you love real estate, you love personal finance. It's kind of like a match made in heaven.
It goes hand in hand. And then I guess I'm curiosity has me now. So what was the career you're in previous to becoming a mortgage agent?
Yeah, so I was working for my church.
Okay.
And I had three main responsibilities. One that took the primary role was a leadership internship.
All right.
So typically for high school graduates, or it could be those in their early 20s or something like that. A gap year program, really focusing on developing them as a person holistically. And so in that, there was definitely an incorporated, piece of your personal finances that I would coach and work with them on, and me along with another bunch of other staff.
Okay.
We would lead them through this program, and I loved it. There's parts of it that I definitely still miss.
Yes.
But at that point in time, I was like, okay, I think a change is coming. And then of course COVID came and the program ended up shutting down, and Yeah.
It was time. It was time to gear up. In that
Yeah.
regard.
And so I finished in December 2019.
All right.
And then that's when I started my role working as a mortgage agent.
Wow, you had a head.
2020.
You knew COVID was coming before it came.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was the perfect opportunity to jump into the industry.
Yes.
But I was blessed.
If you can work from home, you can work from home.
Yeah.
And I guess through that, you probably developed a good name, through the church of understanding these money matters, if you will.
Yeah.
Was like math one of your big
It was
things, or was
up
it more
until,
business
I'll
in
say
school?
like maybe
what?
up until junior high. As soon as we started introducing letters, as soon as you get those letters into math, I'm like, nah, algebra,
Don't like that. Okay.
So I'm usually pretty quick with numbers in general, but
Amazing.
I don't know if I must have missed something in grade 7 or 8 that was like, okay, this is starting to get a little wonky.
So in terms of background to that, what got you into, like, how did that first rental property come about? What made you say go, or did you have any role models that were into rental properties? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say yes to a few of those things. So my parents actually, they wouldn't have invested in any real estate while I was young, but as I got older, they had a good friend of theirs challenge them and say, I think this should be part of your retirement plan. Like, you should be considering this, because they didn't have other pensions or that sort of thing.
Okay.
And so that was like a real step for them. It was like, not like, oh yeah, let's just go for it. Not big risk takers. This is like a kind of out of the box thought. And so they did. And so their first property, and then they did a couple after that. And so just growing up, it was like, I'd seen that modeled.
Yes.
I felt like I understood it and I liked it.
Mm.
And it was just like, okay, this is a goal of mine. And so when my wife and I, we got married in 2011, and in 2010, I'd seen a property close to where I was working at the time, and friends were selling it. And so that's when I bought that first one.
Oh, wonderful.
And then, so we got married, we moved in, and it wasn't too long later, we had friends of ours that were moving literally across the street. They were moving back home to Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, I mean, it's not like we've, saved up some massive down payment again.
You can figure it out. And back then, the market was going up at about, 5% per annum was
it wasn't
what
crazy.
you would see. Yeah.
It wasn't crazy. But that house across the street, a 1.5 car garage, not just a single car garage.
Oh, wonderful.
A little extra space and a bigger backyard, and right beside the park.
Ooh.
And we were on a court. So it was like, this might be like the perfect opportunity to turn our house into a rental and move across the street. So I'll say, again, without going into the whole situation of how all that happened, we were blessed to be able to make it happen.
Fair. Yep.
And kind of didn't look back from there. It was just like, okay, that was easier than we thought.
So the same, and because of that, you already had your sort of opportunity metrics that was sort of taught by your folks, right?
Yeah, and I grew up knowing quite a number of realtors that I would, bounce questions off of, and have those conversations. So especially when you're young and you're trying to learn something, it's invaluable to have people in your life that can coach you, tweak your direction a little bit. What about this, or how about that? And so I'd seen it modeled. It was a dream, and we were very blessed to be able to make it happen. And then a couple of years after that, it was like, whoa, wait a second. I want to have a rental property. I'd seen my parents. It's like, well, theirs is across town. Having this one on the same street is like, if there's a problem, I just walk over after work.
Makes life pretty easy.
Yeah, they also know that I'm watching. Not trying to be creepy, of course, but I'm there. You see me, we wave to each other, sometimes going out to work or cutting the grass and whatnot.
It's written in that you shovel the driveway, and it doesn't look too shoveled right now. Yeah,
you got it.
These sort of things.
And so, a couple of years after that, a house came up for sale at the end of the street.
Right.
And so it was Canada Day, and one of my friends, who's a realtor, just said, hey, let's go have a look at it.
Yes.
And so next thing you know, we bought that house. We took a bit of equity from our first property.
Which is what you have to do.
Yeah. Yep. And then we'd saved a little bit more. And we were able to buy that property.
Well, I love that. So I guess, how much of an active role do you take with your clients coming in looking for a mortgage for an investment property, are they asking you the questions, or if you see something that isn't lining up, do you jump in? Like, do you have any guidelines that you sort of follow yourself when that happens? Like, I'm curious because, you know, I know of you as a mortgage agent to get a mortgage for a home to live in, fair. But in the case of an investment property, yeah, how much of that budget coach comes out of you?
Yeah, I think most people would probably tell you it comes out all the time.
It can't help but come out.
Yeah. And so I think when I'm working with someone on an application or just talking to, you know, first-time buyers, which of course that's a really fun segment of the population to work with because this should be an exciting, you know, opportunity.
Correct.
And most people that I come across that don't already have rentals or, you know, investment property of some sort don't think it's an option. They just have almost across the board written it off.
I'm not a landlord.
I can't make it happen.
Yeah.
They just think, most of them financially, and then some of them just like, I've heard horror stories or whatever.
Yes.
And so I do really enjoy, you know, at least sliding the card toward them and saying, have you ever thought about this? Like, you might want to consider, hey, maybe a duplex for your first property. You can just rent out the basement. It would significantly help. Of course, you know, obviously the housing market is not what it was 5, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, but there is opportunities.
Sure.
There is opportunities. And so I do like to take my experience as a first-time buyer. Like, obviously it's really great. If you've never bought a home before, if you've never yourself, it's like, you want to be able to walk through the process first and know what didn't work, what was good, what wasn't good.
True.
And so I find that that's a strength that I would offer is I've been there, I've done that. I've, you know, gone from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
Yes.
And
this is the thought process behind it. And these are the metrics that I look at as well. And I guess you also have a firsthand feel of what the rental rates might be in certain areas because you're looking at it for yourself as well. What you said was also a little bit funny to me, how you went through it yourself. And I'm reminded, I forget who the realtor was that told me this. I don't want to give credit where it isn't due, but it's probably somebody like Susan Raymond or something. And she goes, I really believe that realtors should almost have to move at least 5 years.
That's a funny thought.
To realize how much of a pain in the butt it is for your clients and sort of empathize through that process. So I think it was Susan. It could have been Gay, but it's kind of the same thing. You just start firing ahead. Like, who are you to say if you haven't done it yourself, right?
Yeah, lived experiences. You got to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
So I guess you're good at budget. You're good at numbers. In the end, does it take a toll on you, or is it more if people aren't listening to you, then it becomes tiring? Like, what's?
I think there's always parts of any job that kind of tick the boxes for you. Like, oh, that's great. That's just like fulfilling. And then there's always parts that's like, I could do without this. That would be great.
That'd be great.
This is the part that adds the most stress or takes up the most time, and you're just kind of working against yourself, or it's just grading and things aren't just flowing nice and smooth.
True.
I think in my industry, some of the parts like that would be like that for me is there's not a whole lot of there are lots of options.
True.
And so what's the value that I bring, and do people want that? Do they respect it? Do they see that? And
True.
You can't force them. You hope that if you're able to serve them well, and if you're able to offer advice and kind of your personal experience, that's valued. But sometimes it's just like, it's a convenience or numbers game. And
so the part that irks you is it's like, just give me a number, right? And you're like, okay, I could really help. Like, I see your application. I see that this is going here, this is going here, this is going here. You can get my little number, which might be a point, or like not a point, but like just a minuscule amount more, right? But if you work with me, I can help you with your life a
Right.
little bit here, as opposed to, no, I just want that, and I'm going to keep on, buying, actually, Holly's Cafe, not really overpriced, but, keep buying my Starbucks latte every single morning sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's so often for people to, I'm not going to throw any, banks or lenders under the bus, but it's regular. I'd say if it's not weekly, it's every other week that somebody's coming to me frustrated about their experience with their bank.
Mhm.
They might have been there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Sure.
And they're just like, no one gets back to me, no one calls me. But then sometimes they still end up going with their bank. And I'm just like, we've been having, some great conversations, and I love to be able to offer my time and advice as you do.
Yes.
But sometimes you're like, okay, I guess you didn't value it enough.
Sure.
And so that's probably the one that feels like a bit of a punch in the gut sometimes. You're like,
Okay. So those things happen with realtors too. So the same time you're getting gut shot, Watty is too. So don't worry about that in the least bit. Okay. So obviously you're good at what you do, and if anytime I believe something hurts because somebody isn't appreciating what you're doing for them, to me that means you care.
Yeah.
Right. And you're playing your game with your mind and your heart. To me, otherwise it wouldn't matter. It'd be next. Yeah. Right? Next on the list.
Water off a duck's back.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I don't play that game either. So I empathize with you, but that also lets me know you're doing it right. Well, that's the type of person I would want to refer to. Somebody that actually cares. Right. As opposed to just ripping off a number and we're done. Yeah. Right. But that said, because it does take a toll on you, what are sort of some of the things you like to do to sort of recharge, rejuvenate yourself outside of work?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a busy, growing family, so I have 3 young girls.
Ooh.
So
sorry, those of you that have 3 young girls, I didn't mean to say ooh like I just have boys, and I would not know what to do with 3 young girls. I have no clue.
I'm learning, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it in any sense. But there are days that sometimes parenting actually exacerbates the problem.
Yes.
But there are days that say, no, this is great. I'm blessed. I choose to flip the script and say, family's more important anyways. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy if I can get out of my work head and say, no, I'm here. Let's, we're going biking around the court with the girls, or lately they've been wanting to learn to rollerblade. Okay. And so, Dad, help me, go around the court, that sort of thing. I love playing sports of any kind. If I'm invited to, sub in for a team here or there, like this spring, I'll be playing flag football, softball, and I'm at a local squash club as well.
Oh, wonderful.
So sports.
So football, you played football before too, right?
Yeah,
so
I grew up playing football.
So flag football, squash, softball, what else?
I'll play some golf this summer.
Okay. Folks, we got a ringer here. Okay, I'm just saying, if you need to fill out a roster,
I'm down. I'll play volleyball, badminton.
He's a solid 6'3" too. Yeah. So I'm just saying,
whatever works, I'm down to join.
Yeah, not chubby either.
I try not.
You're keeping it together. Well, you're the one that's having the water, so I'm having black coffee. I'm trying my best here. Yeah. If you say had for like to truly unplug. Like you have a vacation. What do you have time off, or you're forcing how about this? How do you make yourself get some balance in a business that is 365? What processes do you have? Do you have any processes?
I'll say I have some, but it's not easy. And I think that's probably one of my next areas to really dive into and grow.
Yes.
Grow in, because as you said, like, this isn't a non-weekend job. Like, I avoid it as much as possible. Sure. I'll purposefully schedule meetings, 9 to 5 as much as possible. Correct. Like, there's the odd evening and weekend thing that you just got to make it work for, clients that they work night shifts and it just happens that way, or people putting offers on the weekends and they're just wanting to get their numbers dialed in.
Tight. Yep.
So when I go away on vacation, there are times, it's almost, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it is almost a given. I go away on vacation and the phone starts ringing extra long, extra loud. It is
So I
insane.
find before you go on vacation,
Yeah.
once you book that vacation and you're a week away, I think that's when the phone starts ringing.
Yeah.
I had a guest in here, and I asked him kind of the same question, and he said, I almost learned, well, this is the way I'm going to term it, and I try to do that myself, almost embrace the imbalance. Meaning, you got to be okay with working for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening when you're on vacation, or plan for it, right?
Yeah.
You're away and you get up a little bit early, knock off an hour worth of emails, and and it's kind of, what's the principle? There's a term, and feel free to comment below, that the work you have will fit the time allotted to it, and almost vice versa. So if you only have an hour to get this stuff done, you're probably going to get that stuff done within the hour because you have to.
Yeah, you're working extra efficient too.
You're working extra efficient. And so I remember when I started, same thing is like, I had to learn that, okay, I'm on vacation, the phone isn't on my hip. But any of the clients, the thing, I might miss a new client if possible, but your voicemail can say you'll check messages at said time. Right. Yeah. And it's a matter of getting back to them within those time periods, but also not having your phone tied to your hip. And it's, I still remember when my son said to me, Daddy, I want a daddy day where your phone isn't on you. Right. So I try to make that Saturdays. If you're going to want to meet with me on Saturday, call me on Friday and we'll see what we need to
pre-schedule it maybe. Yeah.
Pre-schedule it. And so balance is something. And again, you've really been in this business for 5 years and seen some great success. So it's kind of like, you're still climbing altitude, right? And now I'm hearing Bryce Fleming more and more often. So what you're doing is working. But yeah, balance is sort of key. Now I'll ask in terms of how you how you sort of manage that. Were there any parallels from what your folks did sort of growing up, and what did they do?
My parents actually planted a church in town.
Okay.
And so they were pastors for over 35 years. So before I was born, that's what they were doing.
So yeah, I guess pastors and investment properties, you know what, that's, and so, sorry, I cut you off. I'm very sorry. But to me, sort of my involvement with church and so forth, pastors and investment properties I haven't quite seen it, but I think that was a congregation member that said, hey, you should probably consider this, eh?
It was actually another pastor from out of town.
Even better.
That had done it and felt like this is just a one way to kind of plan for the future, because there's not another plan, like if you're a teacher and there's some pension that you can fall back on or whatever. So they would full on tell you that was probably one of the most helpful pieces of advice and conversations they ever had.
You know what? And that's as sad as it is. My uncle was the head Methodist reverend for the Church of the Americas in the Caribbean. And you give your life to God, and by the end it was tougher for him, especially when a hurricane runs through, right? Yeah. So it's amazing when people sort of come in and take that vested interest in yourself. It seems like that's sort of something that you're doing yourself. You can't, I'm already gathering this from you, you can't help but want to help somebody if you see it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's, I think that's honestly what one of the main rules that we're all called to do is look out for those that are less fortunate, look out for those that need a hand. And sure, my goal is to bring it in a way that's not trust me, I've been there, I got this.
Right.
But in a way of, hey, I'm seeing some things that could help you. And, in humility say, do you want my help? I'd be happy to help. And it's actually really cool. My wife and I lately have been having a bunch of young, I'll say university students over to our house. And just having kind of life, marriage, money conversations.
Yes.
Just have dessert and apps or whatever. And it's fun. We've done it 2 or 3 times in the last maybe 2 months. And it's super fulfilling to give back.
Yes.
And to just, man, they just draw on your like expertise or your wisdom. And sometimes you're like, guys, we don't have this all figured out, but here's what we've done and here's what's worked. And, you know, maybe here's what we're still trying to figure out.
Yes.
So it's been just as you're talking about that helping people, it's like, yeah, I want people to know Bryce is here to help, however that looks. Yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna be fun. What was your most fulfilling deal without me coming into, or if there's a top 3, feel free to run those through, but like, what's your most fulfilling deal that you've, and you know what, right. And I'm going to let you jump outside of, if it happens to happen outside of mortgages, by all means, but I'm curious.
I am as a precursor to this answer, relatively indecisive sometimes. So when you say, what is the most? I'm like, oh boy, here we go. All the factors start.
How about what's the first one that jumps to mind?
The first one that jumps to mind, I was helping a solo mom, actually. And she had come to me. I'd known her for a long time, actually. And so anytime you've known someone for a long time, and they know little Bryce.
Yes.
You feel sometimes like little Bryce around those people.
Correct.
And so it's extra honoring when they still will trust me.
Yes.
Because it's like, I get it if you feel like you want to talk to someone that doesn't know you or someone that's older than you or
it's personal too.
Might be.
You get personal with your mortgage and so forth.
There's no way around it.
Yes.
You got it. And so she came to me recently, separated, a couple kids, and it's just like, what can I do? What can we do? What can we make happen? And, you know, and just a tough time because you've probably worked with a number of clients that when marital breakdown is happening or things are on the rocks.
Been a lot of it recently.
People need more than just the actual financial advice or the actual, this is a good home. This is the bones or whatever, advice that you would share.
Yes.
They're going in through everything and it's coming out and it's good for it to come out.
Yes.
And so I just honestly sometimes I would pray like, okay, help me to have the right words to guide through as necessary. And honestly, the praise or the feedback or the thank yous I received after that, I was like, that gives you fuel for a long time.
Yes.
For those clients that things don't work out or
just
feeling ghosted or whatever.
Ghosted, yeah.
That was probably one of my most memorable ones for sure.
Wow. Bryce, there's no doubt in my mind you are a good man. Okay?
Thanks.
Not perfect. None of us are.
That's for sure. Yeah.
However, I think your mindset and the way you carry yourself and the way you look after your business and the clients around you, I wish you many and multitude of continued blessings. I don't think we can end on a better note. Bryce Fleming, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Darryl.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you as well.
Bryce Fleming, one of the best guys, nicest guys you'll ever meet in this town. And successful too.